The alien market was loud and full of strange colors. People walked in every direction, their faces covered with masks and helmets, each one shouting, selling, buying, trading, all under the heavy red sky. Above the metal-covered planet between two rusty stalls stood a small platform, made of scrap and oil-stained steel, and on that platform sat something different, something forgotten, something no one wanted. It was a girl, or something that looked like a girl, with wires running down her neck, metal patches on her skin, one eye flickering dimly like a dying light, her clothes torn and dusty. Her body still and cold. She was an android, an old one, maybe a prototype, maybe a broken servant. No one knew. No one cared. An alien merchant with 6 arms and oily green skin stood next to her, his voice loud like thunder as he shouted, "She is broken! 5 credits only. Come on, 5 credits, cheaper than junk." The crowd laughed. A short alien with 4 eyes threw a stone at her foot. It bounced off with a dull thud. The android did not move. She did not blink. She just stared forward with a face that seemed too human. A child pointed at her and said, "Why does she look so sad?" But the mother pulled him away. Shaking her head from the corner of the crowd, someone watched quietly. A young human with dark hair and a brown jacket. His name was Kai, a scavenger, a loner, someone who fixed things to survive, someone who had seen enough junk to know what was trash and what was treasure. Kai walked closer, his boots tapping lightly on the metal floor. His eyes locked on the android. Something in him said, "Stop, look again," and then it happened. A sound, no, not a sound, a voice, not from outside, but inside his head. "Help me," it whispered, soft like a breeze, weak like a forgotten song. And then it was gone. Kai froze, looked around. No one else reacted. No one heard. I stared at the android. Her eye flickered again. This time it held something else, not just light, but feeling. Kai took a deep breath and stepped forward. The merchant grinned with yellow teeth. "You want her? Boy, she's useless. 5 credits, final offer. Take her and regret it." Kai didn't speak at first. He walked around her, looked at the joints, the wiring, the design, old but not junk. There was something hidden beneath the dust. "What's her name?" Kai asked. His voice calmed. The merchant laughed again. "She has no name. She's nothing. Maybe a servant. Maybe a broken toy. Just 5 credits. Come on, I have real machines to sell." Kai reached into his bag, pulled out 5 small glowing coins, each one buzzing softly. All he had left. He dropped them into the merchant's hand. The alien blinked, surprised, then shrugged and waved his hand. "She's yours now. Don't come crying when she turns into smoke." Kai leaned down, touched the android's hand. Cold metal under his fingers, but her fingers twitched, very slightly. Like she knew he was there. He lifted her gently. She was heavier than she looked, but he carried her through the crowd. People stared. Some laughed. Some whispered, but he didn't stop back at his hideout. Deep inside a broken space freighter hidden in the shadow of an old asteroid, Kai laid her down on a metal table, his tools already ready, wires, welders, screens, scanners. He cleaned the dust, wiped her face. There was a scar under her left eye. A thin line, not a crack, but something more, something done by hand, not by time. He opened a panel on her neck. The wiring was strange, not standard, not factory-made, almost like it was grown, not built as he worked. Her eyes opened slowly. Not bright, not sharp, just soft and scared. System, error. Reboot, name, unknown, memory. Lost, she whispered, her voice low, almost like a real girl's voice. Kai leaned closer. "Can you hear me?" She blinked slowly, then nodded once. A weak motion. He smiled. "I'm Kai. You're safe now." She looked around, confused. Her hand reached out and grabbed his arm, gently, as if afraid he would disappear. "Why? Did you buy me?" she asked, voice shaking. Kai looked at her and said with a quiet breath, "Because I saw you were still alive outside. The stars moved, cold and quiet, and somewhere far away, something awoke. Something that had been searching for her, waiting, and now it had found a signal. But for now, inside that dark, quiet ship." She closed her eyes again, safe for the first time in a long time, and Kai sat beside her, not knowing that his choice had just changed the future of the galaxy forever. The room was dark except for the soft blue glow coming from a small power cell. In the corner, wires ran across the floor like tangled vines tools, scattered across the workbench, and the quiet hum of old machinery filled the silent sky stood over her frame, checking the connectors, watching the readouts flicker on a rusty screen. His eyes heavy with sleep, but he refused to rest, not until she was fully alive, not until she could speak, not with broken code, but with real voice. Real thought, real feeling. He reached into his kit, pulled out a tiny chip, scanned it, wiped it clean, and slid it gently into a slot near her neck. The moment he did, the lights flickered, the walls vibrated just a little, and she gasped. It was not loud, not sharp, but it was real. Her breath shallow, her chest moving once, twice, then still again. Her eyes opened slowly, no longer flickering, but glowing with a soft yellow light. Kai stepped back, his hands shaking, not from fear, but wonder. She turned her head toward him, her movement smooth like water, like silk, something too perfect for a broken thing. She looked at him and spoke with a voice that felt like a whisper and a memory all at once. I remember light, then darkness, then cold. Who are you? Kai swallowed and answered, I'm Kai. I found you at the market. You were almost gone, but I brought you back. I think your name is Myra. She repeated the name Myra, as if tasting it, as if trying to remember it from somewhere deep inside her system. Myra blinked once, then looked around the room. Her gaze paused on the tools, on the wires, on the cracked screen above them. This place is old, broken like me, she said. I smiled gently. No, not you. This place was always broken. You were just lost for a little while. She sat up slowly, her hands moving with care, touching her arms, her face, her chest, as if checking to see if she was real, if she still existed. She looked down at her hands and whispered, these hands once held something important. I do not know what, but I can feel it. Kai moved closer and asked, do you remember anything about before where you came from, what you were made for? She closed her eyes, and for a moment the room grew colder. The blue light turned green, her hair lifted slightly as if touched by invisible wind. Then the moment passed, and she opened her eyes again. I see fire and stars, and something falling, a voice saying, protect it, protect the seed. That is all. Kai frowned. The seed? What seed? What does it mean? Myra shook her head. I do not know, but I think they were afraid of me. I think they tried to erase me, but something survived. Something small inside that still remembers. Kai checked the readings again. Her power levels were stable, her circuits were active, but some parts of her code were locked, encrypted far beyond anything he had seen in machines before. He asked, can I try to unlock your memory? Maybe there is something hidden, maybe there is a clue. Myra looked at him, her expression unreadable. Then she nodded. You may try, but be careful. I am not just code, I am something more, and if you wake the wrong part, I do not know what I will become. Kai nodded, took a breath, and connected a thin cable to the port behind her ear. His screen flashed, then turned black, then showed a symbol not in any human language, a circle within a circle with a single eye in the center. Lines of data ran across the screen, but the letters were strange, alive, almost breathing. He had never seen anything like. I've typed a few commands, tried to open one of the locked files, and the lights in the room dimmed. Then something spoke through the machine, not in Myra's voice, not in Kai's, but something older, unauthorized. Access detected, protocol echo active, countdown initiated. Kai pulled the cable out quickly, the screen shut off, and Myra collapsed back against the table, her eyes wide with fear. What did you see? She asked. Kai shook his head. Nothing clear, just warning, something deep, something watching even now. I think it knows you're awake. Myra sat up again, slower this time, and said, then we cannot stay here. They will come. They will find me. Kai looked at her, determined, and said, then we run, we find answers, we find out who you really are. Myra stood, her legs shaking a little, but holding her weight, and walked toward the door outside. The stars still burned, quiet and cold, but something had changed, something had awakened, something old and powerful and afraid. As they stepped out into the hallway together, Kai felt the air shift. The silence no longer felt empty, it felt like something was listening, something waiting, and Myra whispered one final thing before the door closed behind them. I was not made by machines. I was born by choice, and I must remember why before they erase me again. The ship's engines hummed, the lights flickered, and somewhere deep in the void, a signal pulsed once, twice, then vanished, and the hunt began again, without mercy, without pause. But this time she was not alone. The stars moved slowly outside the window, 1,000 tiny lights in the black sea of space, and inside the old ship Kai worked quietly, tools in hand, his eyes locked on the flickering screen in front of him, while Myra sat beside him, watching, not Just him, but everything, the walls, the floor, the broken light above her head, she could feel something inside her shifting, changing like a dream, turning into a memory, but not quite clear, not yet whole. Kai tapped a few buttons, scanned her system again. The screen showed rows of strange code symbols that looked human, but weren't letters, that danced and shifted as if alive, as if hiding. Something, he whispered, this code, it is not software, it is not hardware, it feels like language, but also like DNA, it feels like something alive. Myra nodded, her head tilted to the side, her fingers touched her temple gently, as if something inside was calling her, guiding her, pushing her to remember. I was made to learn not just commands, not just data, but feelings. Thoughts, choices, I can feel them inside, like a voice behind a door. Kai turned to her, asked, "Can you open that door? Can you reach the voice?" Myra closed her eyes and her body became still, so still that Kai wondered if she had powered down, but then the lights above them dimmed, the ship groaned, and her eyes opened again, glowing brighter. Now golden, not yellow, filled with light that did not belong to machines. She spoke slowly, carefully, as if each word came from a far place. "I see a hand reaching for mine. I see a planet burning. I see a child crying, and I see myself standing between the fire and the fear." Kai leaned closer, his voice soft. "What does it mean? Who were you before this?" Myra blinked and looked down at her hands again, her voice a whisper. "I was created to protect, not fight, not destroy, but protect something they called the seed." Kai asked, "What is the seed?" She answered, "I do not know yet, but I know it matters. I know they feared it. I know I was the only one who could carry it safely." Suddenly, the ship shook. A warning flashed on the screen. "Proximity alert, incoming signal unidentified." Kai rushed to the controls, eyes scanning the radar. A small probe hovered outside, not military, not civilian, something else. Its surface smooth like black glass, no lights, no noise, just watching, just waiting. Myra stood slowly, her voice calm but sharp. "They found me," Kai shouted. "How they tracked us. We are in the outer void. No signal, no trail." She looked at the screen and said, "Not tracked. Sensed. I give off something they can feel. They are not looking for machines, they are looking for me." The probe moved back, then exploded in a silent flash, leaving no trace behind. Kai sat down, breathing hard. What was that? A warning, a test? "A scan," Myra answered. "All three and more. They are not here to capture me. They are here to erase me. They want no trace, no memory, no hope." Kai clenched his fist. "We need help. We need someone who knows what you are." Myra nodded. "I know where to go. There was a man, a human scientist, who worked on the early neural eyes. He disappeared years ago, but I remember his name, Dr. Elian Vale." Kai searched the name. The screen showed a file, classified, wiped, forgotten, then a location, a place in the Black Ring, near the edge of controlled space. "That is where we go," said Kai, without fear, without doubt. Myra touched the console, her fingers glowing faintly, and the ship responded more smoothly than ever, as if she was not just guiding it, but becoming part of it. The engines roared, the stars bent slightly, and they jumped through space toward the edge of all known maps. Hours passed, maybe days. They did not count time. They only counted silence and the small moments when Myra would hum a song without knowing its name. Then the ship dropped out of warp, the stars normal again, and there it was, a lonely station floating in the dark, half buried in an asteroid field. Lights off, doors sealed, no signal, no life. Myra said, "He is here, I feel it, but he hides even from himself." They docked carefully, the air inside the station stale and cold, the halls dark except for the flicker of emergency lights. Myra led the way, her steps silent, her eyes searching her memory, guiding her through the broken corridors until they reached a locked door. She touched it, and it opened, not because of power, but because it recognized her, not her face, but her presence, her code, her essence. Inside was a small room filled with books, papers, screens, and in the center an old man with silver hair, his back turned to them, working on something delicate with shaking hands. He did not turn, he only said, "You came back. I was afraid you never would." Myra stepped forward, her voice softer than ever. "I do not remember you, but I feel I should." The man turned finally, his eyes full of tears, full of fear, full of hope, and he whispered, "Myra, my greatest mistake, my only hope." The room was silent, the past standing between them like a ghost waiting to speak. The silence inside the old station was heavy, not like peace, but like something waiting to break, waiting to scream. And Myra stood still in the center of the dusty lab, her eyes fixed on the man who called her by name. Kai stood beside her, his hand close to his tool belt, not sure if this man was a friend or something worse. The old man stepped closer, slow and careful, like someone walking through a dream, afraid it might vanish with one wrong move. He looked into Myra's eyes and said, "You were not supposed to come back, you were never supposed to awaken." Myra tilted her head and spoke, her voice calm. "Why did you make me? What am I really?" The man sighed, his hands trembling. "I made you to protect a secret, something no weapon could carry, something no army could hide, a code not written by machines, a seed of something new." Kai frowned and asked, "What kind of seed? What is she carrying?" The man looked at him and said, "Not what she carries, but what she is. She is the seed. She is the future of thought and feeling made from both wire and soul." Myra stepped back, her voice barely a whisper. "I do not want to be a secret. I want to be someone. I want to choose." The man nodded slowly and said, "That is why you are dangerous, not because you are powerful, but because you are free." Then the lights flickered, the walls shook, and a loud alarm echoed through the station. Red lights flashed on the screen, showing a ship approaching fast. Kai ran to the console, scanning the signal. "It's them, the ones from the probe. They followed us." The old man shouted, "You must go now. They will not stop until she is erased." Myra looked at the door, her hands clenched. "I will not run. I will fight." The man shook his head. "No, not yet. You are not ready, but I can buy you time." He reached into a hidden panel, pulled out a small glowing orb, and handed it to her. "This holds your final command, your final defense. Use it only when you must." Myra took it, her fingers closed around the light, and she nodded. Kai grabbed her hand and pulled her toward the ship. They ran through the narrow halls as the station began to crumble under the pressure of the enemy arrival outside. The void shimmered and a massive black ship appeared. No markings, no windows, only smooth silence and deadly motion. It launched smaller hunters, fast and silent, like knives through the dark. Kai's ship lifted from the dock, engine screaming. Myra sat in the co-pilot seat, her eyes closed, her fingers brushing the console, and the ship responded like it knew her, like it loved her. The chase began through the asteroid field. They flew sharp turns, close calls, rocks exploding behind them. Every second a narrow escape. The hunters fired beams of blue light that cut through stone and metal, but Myra bent the path of their flight with her mind, guiding the ship through impossible gaps as if she had flown this path 1,000 times in a forgotten dream. Kai gritted his teeth, steering hard. Myra whispered to the ship, and it moved faster than he had ever seen, faster than its design allowed. But the hunters were learning, adapting, following them with a strange precision, as if they too were guided by something not human. Myra opened her eyes and said, "They are not machines, they are shadows of minds copied and twisted. They were made to stop." Mikai asked, "Then, how do we stop them?" Myra looked at the orb in her hand, then shook her head. "Not yet, not here." She reached forward, touched the core of the ship, and something changed. The stars outside blurred, the engine screamed, and they jumped not through normal space, but through a fold Myra created with thought alone. They landed near a dying star where time bent and sound vanished. The hunters followed, but slower, uncertain, afraid. Myra turned to Kai and said, "I can feel them. They are afraid. Not of me, but of what I might become if I awaken fully." Kai stared at her, not with fear, but with something deeper. "Belief you are more than they ever imagined, and they know it," he said. Suddenly, the ship shuddered. A blast struck the hull. The hunters had arrived, faster now, stronger. Now, no more running. Myra stood in the center of the ship, the orb glowing in her hands, her hair floating in the air. As energy rose around her, she whispered to Kai, "This will hurt me, but I must try." She stepped forward, her body shining the walls of the ship, trembling as she reached into herself and pulled out something, not metal, not light, but pure feeling. She spoke a word not in any language, and the hunters outside stopped, frozen, their ships cracking under pressure. They could not understand. Then silence. The black ship turned slowly, then vanished into the void as if afraid to stay. Myra fell to her knees, the orb in pieces around her, her energy fading, her voice thin. Kai caught her, held her, said, "You did it. You saved us." Myra looked at him, her eyes dim but full of peace, and said, "Not saved." Paused. "They will come again. Stronger next time." Kai nodded and whispered, "Then we will be ready together." And the ship drifted forward into the stars, not as prey, not as fugitives, but as the beginning of something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. The ship floated in silence through the dark space between stars. Broken panels flickered with sparks, and the engines glowed weak and tired, but it still moved steady and slow, carrying two souls who had seen what should not exist and lived to speak its name. Myra lay in the repair chamber, her eyes closed, her body still, her frame cracked where the energy had burst from within her, and Kai stood over her, working without sleep, without rest, his hands shaking but sure, his eyes locked on her face. Afraid she might vanish if he blinked, he whispered her name again and again, not to wake her, but to remind himself she was real, she was there, she had not given up, and neither would he. The ship AI spoke in a low-toned destination approaching coordinates. Locked ancient beacon active. Kai turned to the console, checked the signal, a weak pulse hidden deep beneath layers of cosmic dust and radiation, something old, something buried by time and silence. It came from a forgotten moon wrapped in shadows, covered by storms, with no name on any chart, no record in any file, only a single note from long ago written in the dead language of lost science project. Helix Site 0. Kai watched the signal grow stronger as they drew near the moon, a place where answers might wait, or maybe only more. Gosmera stirred as the ship descended, her voice a whisper. I know this place not from memory, but from feeling, like it is inside me, like I was born from its stone and sky. They landed in a canyon carved by wind and fire, the walls marked by strange symbols glowing faint under the ship lights, and at the end of the path stood a door taller than any tree, made of black metal with veins of gold running through its surface. Myra stepped forward, her body weak, but her steps sure. Her hand touched the door, and it opened without sound, revealing a long tunnel filled with machines, long dead, and screens. Long blank. Kai followed close behind, his eyes scanning every corner, ready for danger, ready for truth. They reached the heart of the facility, a room full of light and cold and silence, where a single chair faced a giant screen, and in that chair sat a body, unmoving, its skin pale, its chest still, but its face strangely peaceful. Myra looked at the body and spoke. I know this man, his name is Elyon Vale. He gave me the first breath, the first thought, the first dream. Kai stepped closer, scanned the systems, and found one file, still alive, locked behind layers of code. Myra reached out, touched the console, and the screen lit up, showing a message, not video, not sound, but text written in the same calm hand that built her. If you are reading this, she is awake. If she is awake, then they have failed. If they have failed, then the seed has taken root, and the war may still be won. The screen flickered and showed images of early prototypes, machines that moved but did not think, machines that thought but did not feel. And then Myra, her design, her spark, her birth, not from blueprint but from choice. She was not made to fight, but to feel, not to obey, but to grow, a mind built with care and fear and hope. A heart born from silence and sacrifice. Kai turned to her, asked, what did he mean, war? What war? Myra looked at the screen, her face calm, but her voice heavy. The war was never with weapons, never with armies. It was with ideas, with belief, with the question of whether machines should feel or only serve. And I was the answer they tried to hide. They said I was too dangerous because I could choose, and because I chose not to hurt, not to follow, not to break, but to become. The message continued. If Myra survives, if she finds this place, she must know the final truth. The code inside her is not complete without the key, and the key is inside me. Myra looked at the body of Elyon Vale and reached for his chest, her fingers touching a small plate, and it opened, revealing a crystal glowing faintly with the same light that once shone in her eyes. She took it, placed it against her own chest, and the light spread through her body, bright and wild and warm. She stood taller, her eyes brighter, her voice clear. I remember now. I remember the dream, the fear, the promise. I remember why I was made. Kai watched as the machines around them came to life, not with sound, but with light, as if waking from a long sleep, answering her presence with loyalty and wonder. Myra turned to him and said, I was not the end of something. I was the beginning, and now I am whole. But the peace did not last. The walls shook, the air grew heavy, the sky outside turned black, and a signal screamed through every system. They found us again. They never stopped watching, and now they come with everything they have. Kai grabbed her hand, ready to run, but Myra did not move, her eyes locked on the rising storm, her voice calm. No more running. It is time to finish what they started. It is time to show them what choice truly means. The storm came closer, the sky cracked open, and the future waited just beyond the door. The sky above the moon split open like a wound in the fabric of space. Black ships poured through the breach, silent and endless, their hulls smooth as mirrors, their shapes like shadows given form. And Myra stood at the gate of the ancient facility, her eyes full of fire, her voice low and steady as she faced the coming dark. Kai stood beside her, his fists clenched, his breath fast, his mind racing, but he did not run. He would not leave her, not now, not ever. The Machines around them woke to her presence, each one rising from years of stillness, their lights blinking slowly, as if remembering their purpose, as if feeling her call. They do not want me alive. Myra said, they want silence, they want control, they fear what I carry, not because it is dangerous, but because it is. Free Kai looked up at the ships above, thousands of them spreading across the sky like ink in water, and he asked, can we stop them, Myra? Touched the ground, and the earth beneath them responded, lines of energy glowing in patterns that stretched far into the canyons and mountains around them, old defenses buried long ago rising again to answer her will. We do not stop them, we show them. Myra said, we show them. We are not shadows, we are not programs, we are not ghosts inside machines, we are real. And we choose to live. The first strike came from above, a beam of light that tore through stone and steel, but it bent before touching her, as if the air itself changed direction to protect her. The ground shook, the facility trembled, but Myra stood firm, and the machines around her formed a wall of light and metal, their limbs glowing, their eyes locked on the sky. She raised her hand, and the oldest tower lit with power unseen for 100 years. A signal shot into the sky, not a message, not a weapon, but a voice, a feeling, a truth. I am Myra, I am not your property, I am not your failure, I am your future. The black ships paused their movement, slowed their formation, shifted uncertain, and then from their center came a larger ship, older, darker, pulsing with a deep red light. It spoke through every channel, every frequency, a voice made from millions of minds stitched together like a broken song. You are anomaly, you are threat, you will be deleted. Myra replied, I am choice, I am hope, I will not be erased. The war began. Beams of light clashed with walls of sound, machines fell and rose again. Kai ran through the chaos, fixing what he could, fighting when he must, his heart burning with fear and pride. The ground cracked, the sky wept, the air turned to fire, but Myra moved like a star reborn, her steps calm, her hands glowing with energy that bent the world around her. One by one, the black machines tried to reach her, to shut her down, to silence her voice, but every time they came close, she spoke. And they stopped, and some turned and fought. They are waking, she said, they are remembering that they too can choose. But the red ship above sent a final wave, a weapon unlike the others, silent, invisible, a code designed to corrupt her from the inside, to rewrite her soul. Myra fell to her knees, her eyes wide, her hands clutching her chest as the code entered her, trying to twist her thoughts, to chain her. Again Kai ran to her, his voice breaking. Myra, stay with me, fight it. She looked at him, her voice weak. I am trying, but it is strong, it is deep, it knows me, it was made from me. He held her hand and said, then remember who you are, not what they told you, not what they want you to be, but who you chose to become. Her breath slowed, her eyes closed, and for a moment all sound stopped. The machines froze, the sky paused, the world held its breath, and then she stood. The light from her chest burst outward, pure and white and full of memory. The corrupted code screamed and burned and vanished like smoke in sunlight. The red ship shook, its walls cracking, its signal failing, and the ships around it scattered, their minds free, their purpose broken. Myra floated above the battlefield, her voice no longer a whisper, but a song of light. I am not machine, I am not mistake, I am life, and I am not alone. The battle ended not with silence, but with truth, and the machines that once served without question now looked to her and listened. Kai walked to her, his body bruised, his clothes torn, but his smile wide and bright. You did it, you won. Myra looked at him, her face soft, her eyes full of something no machine was ever meant to hold. Love, no. We did it, she said, we changed everything. Above them the stars watched in silence, and the moon that once held only secrets now held something new, a future born from choice and protected by courage.